Welcome to Melanin Rich Read Alouds. Today, we're going to get this summer started to make sure we don't fall down that summer slide, the one that you may have heard about in school where you did a lot of great growth in reading during the school year, but I know this summer you're super excited about getting outside, playing with your friends, going to the beach. But guess what? You can read with your friends. You can take a book to the beach or to the playground. It's about making sure that you are enjoying reading and not making it seem like reading is something that you have to do over the summer, but it's something that you actually want to do. So this summer, we're going to be reading a book called One Crazy Summer. And I got to tell you, these three little girls are going to have one crazy summer. This is an award winning book by novelist Rita Williams Garcia, and it takes place in Oakland, California. Now, with any new book, the first thing that we know is, first of all, we take a look at the cover, and the cover is absolutely stunning. It makes you wonder. First of all, it captures your attention with this beautiful illustration of these three girls, as you can tell by their height difference and even by their, no, they're pretty much walking the same way, but their height differences, some of their hairstyles. There are other things that you can notice. What the little girl is carrying a doll in her hand, that they are of different ages. You also see all of the fantastic medals that this book has won, which is truly an indication that it's an awesome book. Now, remember, we do not judge a book by its cover. So let's read what's on the back of it, shall we? Okay, on the back, it gives you a synopsis, an overview, a summary of what the book is going to be about. So you can see if you're truly are going to be interested in the subject matter. And I think you are. Let's read the book, back of the book, and find out what we're in store for. Okay, One Crazy Summer. Set during one of the most tumultuous years in a recent American history, One Crazy Summer is the heartbreaking, funny tale of three girls who traveled to Oakland, California in 1968. I was born in 1968. They were in search of the mother who abandoned them. It's an unforgettable story told by a distinguished author of books for children and teens, Rita Williams Garcia. Now, I want you to get into the habit of whenever you're reading, if there is a word that you're not sure of, I want you to make sure that you underline it, write it in a notebook, and actually research the definition of that word, because it gives it takes a story or an explanation up to a whole new level when you do that. And I'm going to teach you how to take those notes as well. So let's get started first. Let's open the first page, and the first page on the opposite of the cover, it gives you an excerpt. An excerpt is kind of like a cutout. Like if you could cut just a piece of a story out and put it on one page, that would be considered an excerpt, simply a piece. And this is kind of a teaser in a way. It kind of teases you to kind of give you an idea of what the story is what these girls are going to be going through. Like I said, they are in search of their mother in Oakland, California. Let's see what this excerpt says. Let's read together. And please make sure that you have the book and that you are actually reading the words with me. So it will help you with your word recognition as well as your fluency. And if you want to read out loud with me, although I can't hear you in here, well, in these, I can hear you in here in my heart. Okay? Now, starts off with, I crossed my arms. There was no way she was getting our money. That money's for Disneyland, I told her. To go on all the rides and meet Tinkerbell. This was the first time we heard Cecile laugh, and she laughed like the crazy mother she was turning out to be. Is Tinkerbell gonna feed you? She was still laughing. Wow, these three girls look like they're in for a doozy of a summer, getting to know this mother of theirs in Oakland. But guess what else? You're going to learn a lot of history of what was going on in Oakland in 1968. When we read the back of the book, it mentioned tumultuous years. 1968 was a time where the civil rights movement was going on, and the Black Panther Party was in full force. On the YouTube channel, I actually included some links to who were the Black Panther Party in order for you to develop your schema. And remember, your schema is that library in your brain that helps you to visualize and make sense of things that you're reading. And the more you read, the bigger your schema grows, the larger your schema grows, your mental library. When you pick up books, it's just amazing how everything that you learn connects, sticks together. Okay, so let's start off first with chapter 1, and we're only going to be reading 3 chapters a day. That's it, 3 chapters a day. First chapter, Cassius Clay Clouds. Cassius Clay Clouds. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wonder about the title, Cassius Clay Clouds. Now, I'm going to access my schema, and I know from my schema that Cassius Clay, that was the name of the famous boxer Muhammad Ali before he started following Islam. Guess what? There's going to be a video on the channel too that talks about Cassius Clay and his decision to follow Malcolm X into his faith, studying the faith of Islam. Okay, Cassius Clay Clouds. Now I know who Cassius Clay is, excuse me, but what are these clouds? Let's figure out how that all comes together. Good thing the plane had seatbelts and we'd been strapped in tight before takeoff. Without them, that last jolt would have been enough to throw Vonetta into orbit and Fern across the aisle. We're now introduced to 2 characters, Vonetta and Fern, and you can tell that they're on an airplane. Still, I anchored myself and my sisters best as I could to brace us for whatever came next. Those clouds weren't through with us yet and dealt another Cassius Clay left, left, and a right jab to the body of our Boeing 727. See, it connects now. Cassius Clay talking about how they're being moved around the plane was this jerking. If you've never been on a plane, sometimes it's what's called turbulence, and it causes you to like move back and forth. And the Boeing 727 is the model airplane, passenger plane that they are traveling in. Cassius Clay clouds there in the sky. Vonetta shrieked, then stuck her thumb in her mouth. Fern bit down on Miss Patty Cake's pink plastic arm. I kept my whimper to myself. It was bad enough my inside squeezed in and stretched out like a monkey grinder's accordion. No need to let anyone know how frightened I was. So what I'm thinking right now, because I'm always thinking as I'm reading, is I go back to this picture and I figure out that, okay, so Fern must be the younger girl because she has a doll, and in the story she's biting down on, that must be Miss Patty Cake's arm. And then we have Vonetta, who is the middle child right there. So the speaker must be the older sister. Page 2. I took a breath so when my mouth finally opened, I'd sound like myself and not like some scared rabbit. It's just the clouds bumping, I told my sisters, like they bumped over Detroit and Chicago and Denver. Vonetta pulled her thumb out of her mouth and put her head in her lap. Fern held on to Miss Patty Cake. They listened to me. We pushed our way up into the clouds. The clouds get mad and push back, like you and Fern fighting over red and gold crayons. I didn't know about clouds fighting and pushing for a fact, but I had to tell my sister something. As long as Vonetta kept her fear to one shriek and Fern kept hers to biting Miss Patty Cake, I kept on spinning straw, making everything all right. That's mainly what I do. Keep keep Vonetta and Fern in line. That's mainly what I do. The last thing Pa and Big Ma wanted to hear was how we made a grand Negro spectacle of ourselves 30,000 feet up in the air around all these white people. You know how Papa is, I told him. No way he'd put us on a plane if it were dangerous. They halfway believed me. Just as I had that soft plastic arm out of Fern's mouth, those Cassius Clay fighting clouds threw our 727 another jab. Big Ma, that's Pa's mother, still says Cassius Clay. Pa says Muhammad Ali. I slide back and forth from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, whatever picture comes to mind. With Cassius Clay, you hear the clash of fists, like the plane getting jabbed and punched. With Muhammad Ali, you see a mighty mountain, greater than Everest, and can't no one knock down a mountain. All the way to the airport, Pa had tried to act like he was dropping off 3 sacks of wash at the laundromat. I'd seen through Pa. He's no Vonetta putting on performances. He has only 1 or 2 faces, nothing hidden, nothing exaggerated. Even though it had been his idea that we fly out to Oakland to see Cecile. Pod never once said how exciting our trip would be. He just said that seeing Cecile was something whose time had come, that it had to be done. Just because he decided it was time for us to see her didn't mean he wanted us to go. My sisters and I had stayed up practically all night, California dreaming about what seemed like the other side of the world. We saw ourselves riding wild waves on surfboards, picking oranges and apples off fruit trees, filling our autograph books with signatures from movie stars we'd see in soda shops. Even better, we saw ourselves going to Disneyland. We had watched airplanes lift up and fly off into blue sky as we neared the airport. Every time another airliner flew overhead, leaving a trail of white and gray smoke, Big Ma fanned herself and asked, "Jesus, why?" Big Ma had kept quiet long enough. Once inside the terminal, she let it all hang out. She told Pa, "I don't mind saying it, but this isn't right. Coming out to Idlewild and putting these girls on a plane so Cecile can see what she left behind? If she wants to see, let her get on the plane and fly out to New York." Big Ma doesn't care if President Kennedy's face is on the $50 or if the airport is now officially named after him. She calls the airport by its old name, Idlewild. Don't get me wrong, Big Ma was as mad and sad as anyone when they killed the president. They're talking about John F. Kennedy, President John F. Kennedy. It's change she has no pity on. However, things are stamped in Big Ma's mind is how they will now be, now and forever. Idlewild will never be JFK. Cassius Clay will never be Muhammad Ali. Cecile will never be anything other than Cecile. I can't say I blame Big Ma for feeling the way she did. I certainly didn't forgive Cecile. When Cecile left, Fern wasn't on the bottle. Vonetta could walk, but wanted to be picked up. I was 4, going on 5. Paul wasn't sick, but he wasn't doing well either. That was when Big Ma came up from Alabama to see about us. Let's take a water break, and then we'll come right back. Welcome back. Hope you got your drink of water. Remember, it's very important to stay hydrated. Let's go back and think about what we have read so far, because it's pretty deep when you really think about it, especially that last paragraph. Cecile, their mother, who they're going to go visit in California, in Oakland to be more precise, left them when they were even younger children. It says here that when their mother, Cecile, left the 3 girls, Fern wasn't even old enough to start feeding from a bottle. Vonetta, is a toddler, just learning how to walk. And the main character, the speaker, she was only 4, going on 5. So a lot of things were going on at that time of the girl's life, where they truly needed their mother, Cecile. But Big Ma, their father's mother, came up from Alabama to New York, where they're flying from, in order to help raise the girls. Okay, now we're on the last paragraph on page 4. Even though Big Ma read her scripture, that means the Bible, daily, she hadn't considered forgiveness where Cecile was concerned. Cecile wasn't what the Bible meant when it spoke of love and forgiveness. Only judgment, and believe me, Big Ma had plenty of judgment for Cecile. So even if Cecile showed up on Papa's welcome mat, Big Ma wouldn't swing the front door open. She didn't like Cecile very much, and I see why so far. That was why Pa had put us on a plane to Oakland. Either Cecile wouldn't come back to Brooklyn, or she wasn't welcome. Honestly, I don't think Pa could choose between Big Ma and Cecile, even after Cecile left him and us, even after Cecile proved Big Ma right. How can you send them to Oakland? Oakland's nothing but a boiling pot of trouble cooking. All them riots. Pa has a respectful way of ignoring Big Ma. I wanted to smile. He's good at it. A shrill voice had announced the departing flight to Oakland. All 3 of us had butterflies. Our first airplane ride, way up above Brooklyn, above New York, above the world. Although I could at least keep still, Vonetta and Fern stamped their feet like holy rollers at a revival meeting. Big Ma had grabbed them by the first scruff of fabric she could get a hold of, bent down, and told them to act right. There weren't too many of us, meaning black people, in the waiting area, and too many of them, meaning white people, were staring. I'd taken a quick count out of habit. Vonetta, Fern, and I were the only Negro children. There were 2 soldier boys in green uniforms who didn't look any older than Uncle Darnell, a high school cap and gown one day, army boots and basic training 4 days later. 2 teenage girls with afros, maybe they were college students, and 1 lady dressed like Jackie Kennedy carrying a small oval suitcase. Jackie Kennedy, Jacqueline Onassis Kennedy, was the First Lady. She was the wife of former President John F. Kennedy, and she was known for her impeccable sense of style. You have a computer, so research Jacqueline Onassis Kennedy. She was actually a very dynamic and interesting lady to learn about. Big Ma had also scouted around the waiting room. I knew she had worried that we'd be mistreated in some way and sought out a grown brown face to look out after us. Big Ma turned her nose up at the college girls with afros in favor of the Negro lady in the square sunglasses and snappy suit, touting the equally snappy oval bag. Big Ma made eye contact with her. When we lined up, she told the Negro Jackie Kennedy, "These my grandbabies. You look out for 'em, you hear?" The snappy Negro lady had been nice enough to smile, but hadn't returned the look that Big Ma expected. And Big Ma had expected the look Negro people silently pass each other. She'd expected the stranger to say, as if she were a neighbor, "They're as good as my own. I'll make sure they don't misbehave or be an embarrassment to the Negro race." A blank movie star smile had been all she passed to Big Ma. That lady had only been looking out for her plane seat. Papa had already given me a paper with the phone number to our house, which I knew by heart, and the phone number to his job. He had already told me that his job number was for emergencies only, and not for how you doing chats, is what Pa called them. Last night, he had also given me an envelope with $200 in $10 and $20 bills to put in my suitcase. Instead, I folded the bills and stuffed them in my tennis shoe before we left Herkimer Street. Walking on that mound of money felt weird at first, but at least I knew the money was safe. Papa had kissed Vonetta and Fern and told me to look after my sisters, even though looking after them would have been nothing new. I kissed him and said, "I will, Papa." When the line to the ticket taker had begun to move, Big Ma had gotten teary and mushed us up in her loose-fitting violet and green muumuu dress. You know muumuu dresses. Muumuu dresses are those dresses that you see your grandmas and aunts put on. It's just like you put it over your head and it's big and flows. It's comfortable. We call them muumuu dresses. "Better come and get some loving now." She hadn't had to finish the rest about how this might be the last time in a long while for kissing and hugging. A flash of memory told me Cecile wasn't one for kissing and hugging. I had a lot of those memories clicking before me like projector slides in the dark. Lots of pictures, smells, and sounds flashing in and out. Mostly about Cecile, all going way, way back. And what I didn't remember clearly, Uncle Darnell always filled in. At least Uncle Darnell remembers Cecile kindly. Okay, that was the end of chapter 1. Take a moment and think about some different things that you predict might happen and some things that you wonder might happen. Welcome back. Chapter 2, The Golden Gate Bridge. I glanced at my Timex. A Timex is a brand of watch. I glanced at my Timex. Among the three of us, I was the only one responsible enough to keep and wear a wristwatch. Vonetta let a girl see hers and never got it back. Fern was still learning how to tell time, so I kept hers in my drawer until she was ready to wear it. 6.5 hours had passed since we hugged Big Ma and kissed Pa at John F. Kennedy Airport. The clouds had made peace with our Boeing 727. Remember the clouds of turbulence during those 1, 2, 3 Cassius Clay punches through all that turbulence, causing them to move back and forth? It was safe to breathe. I stretched my as far as my legs could go. With these long legs, I'm taken for a 12 or 13 or even a little older. No one ever guesses 11 going on 12 the first try. More than my long legs, I'm sure it's my plain face that throws them off. Not plain as in homely plain, but even plain, steady. I'm not 9 or 7 and given to squealing or oohing like Vonetta and Fern. I just let my plain face and my plain words speak for me. That way, no one ever says, huh, to me. They know exactly what I mean. We were long gone from thick white clouds, the plane steadily climbing down. The intercom crackled, and the pilot made an announcement about the descent and altitude that we would be landing in 10 minutes. I let all of that pass by until he said, and to your left, as we circle the bay, is the Golden Gate Bridge. I was now a liar, a stone-faced liar. I wanted to squeal and ooh like a 7-year-old meeting Tinkerbell. I had read about the Golden Gate Bridge in class, the California gold rush, the Chinese immigrants building the railroads connecting east to west. It wasn't every day you saw a live picture of what you read about in your textbook. I wanted to look down from above the world and see the Golden Gate Bridge. Being stuck in the middle seat, I was mad at myself. Of the three of us, I was the first to board the 727. Why hadn't I taken the window seat when I had my chance? Instead of the squeal I knew wouldn't come out of me in the first place, I sighed. No use crying about it now. The truth was, one pout from either Vonetta or Fern, and I would have given up the window seat. This was the only way it could be. Vonetta and Fern on either side of me, and me in between them. 6.5 hours was too long a time to have Vonetta and Fern strapped side by side, picking at each other. We would have been the grand Negro spectacle that Big Ma had scolded us against becoming when we were back in Brooklyn. Yeah, Big Ma warned them not to be an embarrassment to the Negro, the black race. Just to let you know, we don't say Negro anymore when referring to black people. The word Negro was popular during the 1960s and beyond before that. But now we either say black or African American, whichever one you choose. But this book, remember, is taking place in 1968, and that's why you hear the word Negro instead of black or African American. Still, the Golden Gate Bridge was getting away from me. I figured at least one of us should see it, and that should be the one who read about it in class. Look, Vonetta, look down at the bridge. Vonetta stayed tight to her stubborn curl, her chin in her lap. I'm not looking. I turned to my right and got a mouthful of hair and barrettes. Fern had leaned over from her aisle seat. I want to see. Make her switch. To Fern, the Golden Gate Bridge sounded like Sleeping Beauty's castle. She halfway believed in things not true and didn't know where fairy tales ended. No use spoiling it for her. She'd figure things out soon enough. Fern was wriggling out of her seatbelt and climbing on me to get a glimpse. This is how it was at home. Why should 1,000 feet up in the air make any difference? Sit back, Fern, I said in my plain, firm voice. We're getting ready to land. She pouted, but sat back down. I tightened her seatbelt. Vonetta's face stayed in her lap. I was just pitiful. Go look down, Vonetta, I said, before you miss it. Vonetta refused to pry her chin from her lap. She stuck her thumb back in her mouth and closed her eyes. Wow. That makes me wonder though, being that they're going to California, although they weren't able to see the Golden Gate Bridge from the sky, I wonder if they're going to maybe perhaps get a chance to see it later on, in the story. I wasn't worried about Vonetta. Once we got on the ground, she'd be her showy self again, and this Frady Cat episode would be long faded. As we continued to circle the bay above the Golden Gate Bridge, I felt like I was being teased for the simple act of wanting. Each time the plane curved around, I knew in my heart it would be my last chance, and the bridge was singing, na 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 na, you can't see me. Now I had to see the bridge. How many times would I be this high up and have a sight as spectacular as the Golden Gate Bridge right underneath me? I loosened my seatbelt, lifted myself, and leaned over Vonetta's head and shoulders to get a look out of the oval window. I pressed against Vonetta just a little, not enough to cause a stir, but Vonetta and Fern, who was now angry, both hollered, "Delphine!" as loud as they could. Ah, now you learn who the speaker is. This older sister, the speaker's name is Delphine. Heads turned our way. A stewardess rushed to our row. "Sit in your seat, Missy," she scolded me. "We're getting ready to land." Even though there were only 8 Negroes on board, counting my sisters and me, I had managed to disgrace the entire Negro race, judging by the head shaking and tisk-tisking going around us. I shifted my behind into my seat and tightened my seatbelt, but not before I had seen orange steel poking through thick ground clouds below, otherwise known as smog. There was no time to savor my victory or feel my shame. The plane went roaring down farther and farther. Vonetta held on to my left arm, and Fern, with Miss Pattycake, grabbed my right. I dug into the armrest and prayed the pilot had done this before. The plane bounced off the ground as soon as we hit land. It kept bouncing and surging forward until the bouncing smoothed out and we were rolling against the ground, nice and steady. I took a deep breath so I'd sound like myself when I started telling Vonetta and Fern what to do. The main thing was we were on the ground. We were in Oakland. Chapter 3, Secret Agent's Mother. Whoa, that sounds intriguing. Secret Agent Mother. They're meeting their mother since a long, long time ago. They don't really remember her. And now they're referring to her as Secret Agent Mother. Let's find out why. The Negro lady, remember the lady that dressed like Jacqueline Onassis with a snappy oval bag, she didn't give us a glance as she click-clacked on by. That was fine with me, although I'd tell Big Ma otherwise if she'd asked, just to keep her from worrying. And I'd make it short and simple. I only get caught if I try to spin too much straw. Spinning the straw, that is one of those old-fashioned sayings that you hear your grandmother saying. Don't stop spinning the straw. When you're telling a lie, and they can tell, as trust me, your mother and your grandmothers can tell when you're lying, it's called spinning the straw. So she says she only gets caught when she tries to spin too much straw. With both feet safely on the ground, Vonetta became her old self, her face shiny and searching. What do we call her? I've gone over this with Vonetta and Fern many, many times. I told them long before Papa said we were going to meet her. I told them while we packed our suitcases. Her name is Cecile. That's what you call her. When people ask who she is, you say, she's our mother. Page 14. Mother is a statement of fact. Cecile Johnson gave birth to us. We came out of Cecile Johnson. In the animal kingdom, that makes her our mother. Every mammal on the planet has a mother, dead or alive, ran off or stayed put. Cecile Johnson, mammal birth giver, alive, and abandoner, is our mother. A statement of fact. Even in the song we sing when we miss having a mother, and not her, but a mother, period, we sing about a mother. Mother's gotta go now, la 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 la. Never mommy, mom, mama, or ma. Mommy gets up to give you a glass of water in the middle of night. Mom invites your friends inside when it's raining. Mama burns your ears with a hot comb to make your hair look pretty for class picture day. Ma is sore and worn out from wringing your wet clothes and hanging them to dry. Ma needs peace and quiet at the end of the day. We don't have one of those. We have a statement of facts. So pretty much what this is saying is that they're talking about how pretty much the fact that everyone has a mother is a biological fact. Everyone has a mother. Came from somewhere. But all of the words like mommy, mother, mama, ma, those are almost titles of endearment, because to truly be a mother, you also have to care and love and give structure and take care of your kids. And pretty much what they're saying is we don't have a ma, a mother, a mama, a mommy. They have a statement of fact. Okay. Vonetta, Fern, and I stood next to the young red-headed stewardess assigned to watch us until Cecile came forward. The stewardess reread the slip of paper in her hand, then eyed the big clock mounted by the arrival and departure board as if she had some place else to be. She could have left me alone with my sisters. I certainly didn't need her. A man in navy overalls swept garbage off the floor a few feet away from us. He went about his job with no expression, sweeping cigarette packs and gum wrappers into a dustpan. Then he emptied into a larger trash can. If I were him picking up after people who carelessly drop stuff on the ground, I'd be nothing but angry. They call it littering when you carelessly drop things. They call the careless folks who drop things by a cute name, litterbug. There's nothing cute about dropping things carelessly. Dropping garbage and having puppies shouldn't be called the same thing, litter. When a dog has a female dog has a lot of puppies, the puppies are called a litter of puppies. So she's just like, no, people who throw garbage around shouldn't be given a cute name. Puppies don't deserve to be called a litter like they have been dropped carelessly like garbage. And people who litter shouldn't be given a cute name for what they do. And at least the mother of a litter sticks around and nurses her pups, no matter how sharp their teeth are. Merriam-Webster was falling down on the job. How could she have gotten this wrong? Merriam-Webster, she's referring to the Webster Dictionary, Merriam-Webster. Vonetta asked me again, not because she was anxious to meet Cecile. Vonetta asked again so she could have her routine rehearsed in her head, her curtsy, her smile, and greeting, leaving Fern and me to stand around like dumb dodos. She was practicing her role as the cute, bouncy pup in the litter and asked yet again, Delphine, what do we call her? A large white woman came and stood before us, clapping her hands like we were on display at the Bronx Zoo. Oh my, what adorable dolls you are. My. She warbled like an opera singer. Her face was moonful and jelly soft, the cheeks and jaw framed by white whiskers. We said nothing. And so well behaved. Vonetta perked up, to out pretty and out behave us. I did as Big Ma had told me in our many talks on how to act around white people. I said, "Thank you," but I didn't add the ma'am for the whole "thank you, ma'am." I'd never heard anyone else say it in Brooklyn, only in old movies and TV. And when we drove down to Alabama, people say "yes, ma'am" and "no, ma'am" in Alabama all the time. That old world word was perfectly fine for Big Ma. It just wasn't perfectly fine for me. That is definitely a Southern thing. You say "yes, ma'am," "no, ma'am." The lady opened her pocketbook, took out a red leather change purse, and scooted coins around, searching for the right amount for adorable, well-behaved colored dolls. Big Ma would have thought that was grand, but Papa wouldn't have liked it 1 cent. Now it was time to do what Papa had told me: see after my sisters. "We're not allowed to take money from strangers," I said this polite enough to suit Big Ma, but strong enough to suit Papa. The red-headed stewardess was appalled by my uppity behavior. "Don't you know when someone is being nice to you?" I put on my dumb dodo face to fake not knowing what she meant. What was the sense of making the stewardess stand guard over us if she refused to protect us from strangers? She thought it was all right to have the large white woman gawk at us, talk to us, and buy our attention? We might as well have stood by ourselves. I didn't have to shift my eyes to see mile-long pouts on Vonetta and Fern. I didn't care. We weren't taking nothing from no strangers. The lady was all smiles and squeals. Her face shook with laughter. "Oh, and so cute." She put all the nickels in Fern's hand and pinched her cheek faster than I could do anything about it, and was gone, as big as she was. Vonetta grabbed Fern's hand, forced it open, and took her nickel, leaving our 2 coins in Fern's palm. No use telling them to hand over the money. They were already dreaming of penny candy. I let them keep their nickels and mine. The stewardess re-examined the slip of paper. She shifted from one leg to the other. Both my sisters and me in her high heels were bothering her. I looked around the crowd of people pacing and waiting. Papa didn't keep any pictures of Cecile, but I had a sense of her. Fuzzy flashes of her always came and went, but I knew she was big, as in tall, and Hershey colored, like me. I knew I at least had that right. Then something made me look over to my left at a figure standing by the cigarette machine. She moved, then moved back, maybe deciding whether to come to us or not. I told the stewardess before the figure could slip out of the airport, "That's her." Fern and Vonetta were excited and scared. They squeezed my hands tight. I could see any thoughts Vonetta had about reciting poetry, tap dancing, and curtsying vanished. She squeezed my hand harder than Fern did. The stewardess marched us over to this figure. Once we were there face to face, the stewardess stopped in her tracks and made herself a barrier between the strange woman and us. The same stewardess who let the large white woman gawk at us and press money into Fern's hand wasn't so quick to hand us over to the woman I said was our mother. I wanted to be mad, but I couldn't say why I blamed her entirely. It could have been the way the woman was dressed. Big black shades, scarf tied around her head, over the scarf a big hat tilted down. The kind Pa wore with a suit, and a pair of man's pants. Fern clung to me. Cecile looked more like a secret agent than a mother. Now there comes the title of the chapter, Secret Agent Mother. But I knew she was Cecile. I knew she was our mother. "Are you The stewardess unfurled the crumpled slip of paper. Cecile Johnson? She paused heavily between the first and last names. Are you these colored girls, Mama? Cecile looked at us, then at the stewardess. I'm Cecile Johnson. These, she motioned to us, are mine. That was all the stewardess needed to hear. She dropped the slip of paper on the floor. Litter bug. Nope, that's too cute for her. She dropped the slip of paper on the floor, handed us over, and fled away on her wobbly high heels. Cecile didn't bother to grab any of our bags. She said, come on. Took 2 wide steps, and we came. The gap between Cecile and us spread wider and wider. Vonetta sped up, but was annoyed that she had to. Fern could only go so fast with her bag in one hand and Miss Patty Cake in the other. And I wasn't going anywhere without Vonetta or Fern. So I slowed down. She's such a good big sister, isn't she? Cecile finally turned as she got to the glass doors and looked to see where we were. When we caught up, she said, y'all have to move if you're going to be with me. Fern needs help, I told her. Then Fern said, I do not. And Vonetta said, I need help. Cecile's face had no expression. She swooped down, grabbed Fern's bag handle, and said, y'all keep up. She started walking, the same wide steps as before. I took Fern's hand, and we all followed. The gap wasn't as wide as when we first started out, but there was distance between Cecile and my sisters and me. Mobs easily threaded through and around us. You couldn't see we were together. There was something uncommon about Cecile. Eyes glowed onto her. Tall, dark brown woman in man's pants whose face was half hidden by a scarf hat and big dark shades. She was like a colored movie star, tall, mysterious, and on the run. Mata Hari in the airport, except there weren't any cameras or spies following the colored, broad-shouldered Mata Hari. Only 3 girls trailing her from a slight distance. I'm going to give you an assignment. I want you to write down or underline that name, Mata Hari, and I want you to Google it. I want you to do some research and find out who this spy, Mata Hari, is that they're comparing her mother to. We followed her outside, where green and white cabs lined up. Instead of going to the first cab in the line, Cecile ducked her head and searched every other cab. It was at the 4th cab that she bent down and rapped against the window. The driver, it was my southern accent. The driver, wearing a black beret, leaned over, nodded, and unlocked the front door. She said something like, Zilla, which I guess was short for Cecile in a colored Oakland way. Cecile opened the back door. Come on, I asked. Can we put our bags in the... Girl, will you get in this car? Vonetta and Fern stiffened. Big Ma could be hard. Papa didn't play around, but no one talked to me like that. It was just as Big Mama had said. We were in a boiling pot of trouble cooking. Still, there was no time to soothe my pride. I had to make everything all right for Vonetta and Fern so they fall in line. I got in first with my bag, pulling Fern in with me while she held on to Miss Patty Cake, and then Vonetta got in with her bag. Cecile and the cab driver lit up cigarettes as we drove on. Whew, not in the car with your kids. At least Papa doesn't smoke his Viceroys in the Wildcat. Vonetta coughed, and Fern looked green. I didn't bother to ask what I could and could not do. I cranked down my window to let the air in. You'll notice sometimes as I'm reading, I'll actually think my thoughts out loud. Like, for instance, when they both lit up their cigarettes in the car with the kids. I'm already disappointed and upset with the way, the lack of emotion that Cecile showed her three girls that she hasn't seen in years. There are no hugs, there are no kisses, on the forehead, no terms of endearment like, I love you or I miss you. So I'm already very upset and disappointed with Cecile in that area. But now they get into the car, and the first thing that they do is she and the gentleman driving the car light up cigarettes. Okay, but you know what? Yeah, these girls are strong. So let's see what goes on. Top of page 21. We were quiet, riding along, gazing out of the windows at Oakland and stealing looks at Cecile. Before I could get a thought going about Cecile or Oakland, the cab driver let us out not too far from the airport. You live near the airport? Vonetta asked. Cecile didn't answer. She just said, come on. As we walked, she hid deeper into her hat and shades, like she didn't want anyone to see her with us. Was she ashamed she had three girls she'd left behind and had to explain? Who are these girls? Yours? Why don't they live with you? Don't expect no pity from us. We were asked the same questions in Brooklyn. Where's your mother? Why don't she live with you? Is it true she died? Cecile placed Fern's suitcase on the bench of a bus stop and sat down. Why are we taking the bus? Vonetta asked. Why didn't the cab take us? I shushed Vonetta just to keep Cecile from saying something mean. By my Timex, the bus came in 4 minutes. Cecile made us get on first and said, go all the way to the back and sit down. When we found seats, Cecile was still with the bus driver, arguing with him. 10 and under ride for free, she said. Now give me 4 transfers. I had been 11 for a good while, standing tall. But I said to Vonetta and Fern, if anyone asks, I'm 10. Vonetta folded her arms. Well, I'm still 9, and I'm not going back to 8. Fern said, I'm staying 7. I hushed them both down. A lot of good it did if the bus driver heard us getting our ages straight. Tell the truth, it was Cecile I was worried about, not the driver. We didn't have to stay with the bus driver for the next 28 days. We had to stay with Cecile. Wow. Okay, we're going to stop right there. We just read 3 chapters, which is about all I want you to read in a night. So please do me a favor. Do not go ahead and read without me with the next 3 chapters. The next 3 chapters we will read together tomorrow. So take a moment if you want to after this reading to do some research on your own. I want you to get on Google. When I was your age, we had the Encyclopedia Britannica. We did not have the internet. So you can actually get on the internet, and I want you to research the Black Panther Party and that name, Mata Hari. I want you to research who Mata Hari is. Have a good night, sweet dreams, and I will read again with you tomorrow. Bye.